Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and another video in my year-long series of themed flower pot free SVGs. We're coming into autumn now, and so it's time for a Thanksgiving design, but this could also work as a general fall or autumn themed craft project. And here it is. We've got a lovely flower pot filled with two great big sunflowers and some pumpkins sat in front on the floor. This is a really nice design. There are so many layers and pieces in, which makes a truly gorgeous piece of artwork. But if you don't want to cut it big to go in a frame, then you can shrink it down in Design Space to make a greetings card instead. Here is what my greetings card looks like. It is 5 by 7 inches, and you can see the flower pot cut beautifully even at that teeny tiny size. In comparison, you can see it is a lot smaller. This is a free SVG available to download from my website. Here's how to find it, and then let's get started. You can find the free files to make this project at craftwithsarah.com/free-SVGs, or click the link in the description of this video to go to the tutorial where you can download straight from that page. You'll need to register a free account on my website in order to download any of the designs. The download comes in a zip folder. Before you can get the files into your cutting machine software, you'll need to unzip that folder. Visit craftwithsarah.com/help for instructions on how to do that, as well as a wide range of other tutorials on how to use your Cricut, Silhouette, or ScanNCut machine. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, open up Cricut Design Space and start a new project. Then go to Upload over on the left, and then click the Upload Image button. You can then either click Browse to find the file on your computer or drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of the download, and within there, look in 01 Cricut version. If you're using a Silhouette or a ScanNCut, head to craftwithsarah.com/help for some guidance on which type of file to use for your type of machine. But I'll go in 01 Cricut version and drag in the file that starts SVG-01. And this is what it looks like. Don't worry if it appears blurry on this screen, it will get into full focus once it's uploaded. Press continue, and on this screen, click upload. And then the design will be automatically inserted onto your canvas. You can close out this window on the left by clicking the arrow that appears about halfway down. This design loads in at a nice size to cut, which is 5 inches wide and 6 inches tall, but you can resize it larger or smaller if you wish. To resize, make sure the padlock icon between the width and the height boxes is closed. If you can't see the width and height boxes, click the design first. Then you can type either the width or the height, and the other measurement will change in proportion. If you're putting this into a shadow box or a greetings card, check out the written version of this tutorial, which is linked in the description of the video, for a separate video on how you can perfectly size this to know it's going to fit inside your frame absolutely beautifully. And there are also tricks in that video for adding background layers for extra visual interest too. Let's take a look at an example of a shadow box design and a greetings card. Here's my shadow box design. My frame is 9 by 9 inches, so that's the size of my biggest square. And then I'll cut this one from orange, and this one that's currently showing in purple, I'm going to cut from some pattern paper that matches the colours of the rest of the design. I've only done it in purple for this so that it reminds me when I'm cutting it out that this is the square that needs to be done from my pattern. My flower pot design is 6¼ inches wide by 7½ inches tall. Here's the greetings card design that I'll also cut out. My base card is 7 by 5 inches. I've added a score line down the middle and once again added some rectangles to cut from other pieces of paper. And again, this one will be done from pattern paper, which is why I've done it a real bright, obvious colour to remind me when it's cutting. My flower pot this time is just over 4 inches wide and 4.83 inches tall. There was a bit of empty space at the bottom of the card, so I made a rectangle shape and then typed out the words "Just for you" in a stencil font, which I've then subtracted from the top rectangle, the orange rectangle, which you can see here. I've then duplicated the rectangle in yellow underneath so I can glue that behind to fill in the letters with the yellow. When you're ready to cut your project, press Make over on the top right of the screen. That will separate out all the colours for you. You can change the paper size in the drop down here, And if you want to, you can click and drag to move things about to use up less space on your cardstock. And you'll need to make those changes for every single colour. When you're happy with how everything's looking, press continue to connect to your Cricut machine and follow the on-screen instructions to get everything cut out. If you're new to cutting cardstock with a Cricut, Silhouette or ScanNCut machine, head to craftwithsarah.com/help for separate tutorials that go through the whole process in a lot of detail. So go ahead, get everything cut out, and then we'll see how to put together our Thanksgiving sunflower flower pot. Here are all of the pieces of my Thanksgiving flower pot, all cut out and laid one on top of the other, following the assembly guide that's included in your download folder. This is a great way to check that you're happy with all of your colours before you start sticking, and that you haven't accidentally missed or lost any of the little pieces during cutting. We'll be putting this together with a combination of glue and foam squares. The glue I'm using is Barely Art glue, but I also like Halal. The reason I like these two glues is they don't bend or wrinkle the card like other glues can do. The foam squares I'm using are from Dot and Dab, but again, any will do. These particular ones are 5 by 5mm in size and 2mm thick. If yours are much bigger, you might need to cut them smaller with a pair of scissors to get them into some of the areas in the design. As with all my layered designs, we're starting at the bottom and then working upwards. So I'm going to move these pieces apart, being careful to keep them kind of in the right order, seeing as I've already gone to that effort here. We're moving them apart until we're left with the very bottom two layers, which is the green and then one of the oranges. This one will stick on with foam squares, so turn it upside down and get your foam. Try and put some of your foam in all of the sticky out bits, like these leaves where I'm putting it in now. That gives you a more consistent stick overall, and it means everything will stay nice and stuck in case it catches on anything when you're putting it in the frame, or especially if it's going on a card and it'll be taken in and out of an envelope. As well as putting bits around the extremity parts like these, we also need to make sure there's a good amount of foam squares in the middle of this piece of card. If I only put bits around the edge and nothing in the middle, there's nothing to hold it flat and stable here, so the card would probably dip downwards and I wouldn't get that consistent 3D appearance. So you'll notice as I'm doing this, as well as going around the edge, there'll be some in the middle too. Once all your foam squares are on, peel the tops off to reveal the stickiness underneath. Now these are all sticky, bring in that bottom layer, and we're going to line this up and then carefully drop it down. I'm only going to drop it down lightly at this point, so that if I'm not happy with the positioning, I can pick it up and move it. I'm using that green to get everything in place. Let's see, sometimes it can be easier to kind of try and pick it up. I haven't lined it up perfectly along that sunflower top. So let's see if I can move that bit about. The rest of it wasn't too bad. Alright, that's looking better. So now I'm happy with that. Push down to get it all really nice and stuck on those foam squares. Next up, we've got the other orange piece in the slightly different shade, which will make up the detail on the leaves, and this one will be glued on. Then we've got these pretty little yellow leaves, which will be done with foam squares. Once again, line this up and gently drop it down. I have not done a good job at that, so I'm going to try again. That's the beauty of the gentle drop. It means you can move it and not damage anything. Okay, that's better. Good. Now we've got the main flower pot to glue on top. Next up is the rim of the flower pot to do with foam squares. This time use the sunflowers, the edges of those petals, to get it lined up. Now you can either build up the pumpkins or you can continue with the sunflowers. They kind of build as separate things now, so it doesn't matter which one you do next. I'm going to do the sunflowers. We've got the leaves next to go on with foam squares. There'll be lots of depth and dimension in this one. I'll show you at the end, but if you're making this smaller and you don't want it to be quite so thick when it's all made, then you can leave out some of the foam square layers and glue them instead. And I've done that for my one that I'm putting on a greetings card. I think for shadow boxes, the deeper and thicker they are, the nicer they look, especially when they're cut big like this one. But when they're cut really small, it can make them look almost too thick to use the same amount of foam squares. And of course, the thicker it is, the more expensive it is to post. So I do tend to kind of narrow down the foam squares if I'm putting it on a card and only use 1 or 2 layers. Because it's smaller anyway, it still has lots of depth in it just because of the amount of card that's building up. So it still looks really lovely, even if it is a bit thinner for the cards. Before I forget, I'm going to do this leaf too. Also with foam squares. Now we're going to build up the sunflowers. Start with the one on the back, if I can pick it up, and this piece will be glued on. Next up is the bright yellow for that back sunflower, also with foam squares. And try and get some in all of these petals so they really stand out well. You might need to cut your foam squares smaller with scissors if yours are bigger. Mine are just about the right size, which is good. You line this up. I'm using the solid filled in one to get all those petals the right way around, which makes it a little bit easier. The middles of the 2 sunflowers are the same size, so it doesn't matter which one you put on which sunflower. And then just put it in the middle with glue. You don't need to put it on a certain way round or anything like that. But for the next sunflower, I've added an arrow to this piece to make it easier to know which way round to put it, because all the petals are slightly different. So when you put it on, this one will be done with glue, and you'll be gluing it so that the arrow is pointing vertically straight upwards. The arrow will be completely covered up when the middle goes on the sunflower, so it won't be seen. Yeah, it makes that really easy. Okay, the next bit of the sunflower also has an arrow in it, and this is also done. No, I was about to say this is also done with glue, and as I said that, I was picking up foam squares. My brain and my mouth were not cooperating then. This is a foam square layer. If you want to, you can add a foam square over the arrow, because as I said, you won't see it once the middle's on the sunflower, and that will mean the middle of your piece is stuck on a little bit better. I'm going to go just either side of it like that. The arrow will sit directly on top of the arrow on the previous one. It's really easy to get that the correct way around, and then glue the middle in the middle, funnily enough. Right, sunflowers done. They're looking lovely. There is loads of depth in this design. And now we're going to do the pumpkins. We've got lots of bits to make up these pumpkins, starting with the big green to go at the back to do with foam squares. Goes right along there. And then we've got the next bit of the pumpkin to do with glue. Oh, that looks like it ought to be off of another project, but I've got no idea what it should be. I'll probably find when I'm doing another video that I'm missing a bit. Okay, then for the next one, I will... Oh, is that the wrong way round? Nope, I just had it lined up badly. What shall we do? I think I'm going to foam square this one. We probably could glue it. But let's go for some dimension. Those sunflowers come out so far that it'd be nice for the pumpkins to reach out the same distance too. There we go. And then glue for the last bit. Perfect. Alright, next we've got this one in green, and this will also... Should we do it with foam squares? No, I'm going to glue this one. Just bear in mind that the stalk doesn't appear on those other bits, so you don't need to add any glue in the stalk. If you do, it doesn't matter. There we go. And then the base bit. I've got that the wrong way around now. Glue this one. And foam squares for the next bit. Oh, that way round. No, that way round. I'm glad I'm checking this, or I would be adding all my glue on the wrong side. There we are. And then finally, glue for the last bit. And there we have it, our super thick and detailed sunflower and pumpkin flower pot for Thanksgiving, or just for autumn or fall if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving. It's all finished. And this is the big one. And here is the smaller one that I was talking about. It's so tiny and it's still cut beautifully. So for this one, I've only got a couple of layers of foam squares. I've got one underneath the first bit of the pumpkins and underneath the rim on the flower pot. And then, is there one more in there? That might be it, actually. Oh no, I've got one more under the darker yellow on that flower pot, so it's 2 thickness in total. But as you can see, because it is small, it still looks like it's got loads of depth in it, even though it doesn't have anywhere near as many foam squares as the big one. So there we go, there's my big and small sunflowers. Now I'm going to finish off my frame and my card, and then I'll show you what they look like. And here is my finished shadow box. I've mounted it with some pattern paper behind the flower pot, and then an orange and a yellow square to make it sit lovely in the middle. And of course, we've got the greetings card as well. Here it is. So this one, I've kind of done the same thing. I've got my pattern paper behind and then 2 colours, and I've added a Just For You sentiment in Design Space. They look lovely together, and you could definitely give them both as a gift, or you could just make the shadow box or the card. It's completely up to you, however you want to make this project. I hope that you enjoyed this video on how to make this Thanksgiving, fall or autumn themed flower pot design with your Cricut machine. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut crafts and free SVGs. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!